Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why we copy people so closely even when they do things that don't seem to make sense? Today we're diving into a super interesting study about why children and even adults tend to copy others, a phenomenon called overimitation. Imagine you are in a toy factory, and you see two people show you how to build something. One person is the boss, who knows the rules, but maybe not the nitty-gritty of making toys. The other is the toy maker, who's great at actually making things. Who do you listen to? And more importantly, who do you copy? This study tries to figure out who we trust more, the boss or the expert. Researchers wanted to see if we're more likely to copy someone just because they're in charge or because they really know their stuff. They used a cool setup to test this. Think of it like this. You are shown how to do something and then you're asked to teach someone else. What do you pass on? Everything you saw, even the weird bits or just the useful stuff? The main idea here is that humans are really good at learning from each other. And sometimes we copy things even if they don't seem logical. This helps us learn quickly and fit into groups. But when there are two people showing us something, one with authority and one with expertise, who do we trust more? Kids, especially, might look up to the authority figure, while adults might lean more towards the expert. The researchers set up a pretend toy factory scenario to explore this. So, how did they actually do this experiment? They gathered groups of children ages 5 to 10, and young adults. Everyone was randomly put into one of two groups. One group first saw a demonstration from the boss and then the toy maker. The other group saw the toy maker first and then the boss. The core of the experiment involved a special puzzle box. It is see-through, which is neat, so you can see how it works. The goal is to get a little reward out of it. One person, who was presented as the boss, showed a way to open the box that involved extra steps, some of which didn't actually help get the reward out. These are called irrelevant actions. Then, another person, the expert toy maker, showed a more direct and efficient way to get the reward, which still had one of those extra, irrelevant actions. After each demonstration, the participants got to try the puzzle box themselves. To make sure everyone understood who was who, they watched a short video. The boss explained she makes the rules but doesn't know much about toys. The toy maker, on the other hand, said she knows a lot about toys and actually makes them. This helped set up their roles. Before even touching the puzzle box, there was a small test to see who they already trusted more. They were shown different parts of the puzzle box and had to choose a name for them. The boss suggested one name and the toy maker suggested another. This was a way to gauge their initial preference. Now for the main event, the overimitation part. After watching the boss show the inefficient way with all the extra steps, participants got to try it. Then they watched the toy maker show the more efficient way. After watching the toy maker, they got to try again. The big question was, would they still do those extra unnecessary steps from the boss, even after seeing the better way from the toy maker? The final phase was the transmission. After trying it themselves, they were asked to teach someone else how to use the puzzle box. This was a chance to see what they had truly learned and what they decided to pass on. So, what did they find? It is pretty fascinating. Initially, after seeing the first demonstration, both kids and adults tended to copy most of the actions, even the unnecessary ones. This is that strong tendency to overimitate. But here is where it gets interesting. When they saw the second demonstration, the more efficient one, things started to change. The researchers found that children seemed to be more influenced by the boss, the authority figure. Even after seeing the toy maker's better method, the kids were still more likely to do the extra irrelevant actions they saw the boss do. Adults, on the other hand, were different. They tended to rely more on the expert. When they saw the toy maker demonstrate the efficient method, they were more likely to drop the unnecessary actions, even if they had initially seen the boss do them. This really highlights a key difference. Children seem to give more weight to authority, perhaps because authority figures often dictate rules and what is right or wrong. Adults, especially in this context, seem to prioritize actual knowledge and skill, looking for the most efficient way to do something. It's also worth noting that the type of irrelevant action mattered a little. For example, some actions like fiddling with the bolts were copied more often than others. This suggests that not all copyable actions are treated equally, and maybe some are more perceptually salient or just more complex to ignore. To really dig into their thinking after the imitation and transmission phases, they asked the participants to explicitly judge the models. They asked things like who was better at playing with the box and why. The kids' justifications often mentioned things about making rules or being the boss. The adults' justifications, when Dad moved away from the boss, often pointed to performance or skill. What does this all mean? This research gives us a peek into the complex ways we learn from others. It suggests that as we grow, our social learning strategies shift. Children might be more inclined to follow cues of power and status, which can be a useful way to learn social norms and rules. Adults, on the other hand, might be more pragmatic, prioritizing knowledge and efficiency, especially when learning practical skills. Now, every study has its limits. This was a controlled laboratory setting with a specific task. Real life is messier. Also, the adult participants were university students, which is a specific demographic. Future research could explore these questions in more diverse groups and in more naturalistic settings. Perhaps looking at different types of authority figures or experts, or even how technology influences who we choose to copy. Ultimately, this study is a neat illustration of how our social brains work. It shows us that who we choose to learn from isn't just about who's right, but also about who's in charge and who's got the know-how. It is a core part of how we navigate the social world and acquire the vast amount of knowledge and skills we need to function. The next time you find yourself copying someone's quirky habit or a shortcut they showed you, think about whether you are leaning on authority or expertise. It is a subtle but powerful force in shaping our behavior. What do you think about these findings? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this exploration into the fascinating world of psychology, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the human mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.